one of the most important pieces of gear that you will purchase for your Appalachian Trail through hike is your backpack. This is mine, the Hyperlite Southwest 3400. There were a lot of different packs out there. Saw a decent amount of these. Saw a lot of Osprey, saw a lot of ULA, Gossamer gear, like everything. This is one of those things that, if nothing else, it comes down to personal preference. I don't know if this was the best pack for my AT through hike, but it's what I used and it served me well. I went with this because it was lightweight. Weight was very important to me. The reason I didn't go with Z-Packs was I didn't like all the add-ons. I didn't like the interchangeable belts. I couldn't go somewhere and do all of that and figure it all out easily. I wanted something that was just already done. I ended up with this pack. I tried the Outbound and I think the Junction. The Outbound was a little too small, and I didn't want to go with anything bigger than the 3400 because I didn't want to carry too much. Again, with my back, weight was critical for me. I also liked that these pockets were solid versus mesh because I figured it'd be better to hold things, and quite honestly, I was worried about the durability of the mesh. I don't think other people had issues with it, but it was something that was a concern for me. So I went with this pack. I also went with the Hyperlite phone case. This thing was amazing. I loved it. I used to keep hand sanitizer here and chapstick on the outside. On the inside, it has this pocket. I put my headphones in there, and then I put my phone in there, and it was waterproof. So that was important to keep my phone protected in bad weather, and it fit right here on my pack. It was perfect. And I put my Garmin right there over it. That was awesome. And then I went with this Z-Packs water bottle holder. I liked this better just because of the design of it. So I had this. I used it. It used to fall off quite a bit, but then I finally figured out how to rig it so it wouldn't. These are for an umbrella that never ended up working for me. I had this umbrella, and the problem for me was that when the umbrella was on the pack, it was either, when it was open, too low, it was cutting my view, I couldn't see in front of me, or it was hitting the back of my pack with all my stuff because it was too high. I never was able to figure out how to get this rigged right, so that could be my fault. But I still carried it off and on. I carried it in the end because there was just so much rain. I wanted to have this at the end of the day. I know it sounds stupid, but when I was in my dry clothes to go out, if I needed to go out and use the privy, or if I needed to go hang my food, or if I wanted to go stand outside or do anything outside, I had something to keep me dry. It's kind of a waste, but whatever. The other thing with the Hyperlite, they have these two big pockets on the side. These were great. They held so much stuff. The size of them was wonderful. They're not waterproof. So water, even though they have this waterproof zipper, I don't know if eventually the fabric just wet out or what happened, but there would be like little pools of water in there. So FYI, same with these, obviously. So I can show you how I packed my pack. I guess that might be of interest to people. I'm keeping it. I'm not gonna have like a burn party and burn my backpack. Yeah, it smells, but it also has this cool thing on the inside. So if you wanted to use it for day hiking, you can put it has this netting, see, in here, where you can put your bladder. And I think that there's a place where your hose comes out somewhere. I actually haven't looked, but I'm sure there's a spot where your hose, yeah, right here. I think this little Velcro thing, yeah. So your hose can come out here and feed around. Yeah, so it's a good pack. It held out. It's dirty, but what isn't after hiking the AT? But mine was actually one of the cleaner white ones, believe it or not. It's funny, Captain used to ask me if I was cleaning my backpack because mine was so much cleaner than his. I'm like, no. I had a medium, and this was right for me. I did end up with, and I think that this is just any backpack's going to do it. So it's not a Hyperlite thing, it's any backpack. This happened to Cup, and she had an Osprey. On your hips, you end up losing skin and getting bruising. Same with your collarbones. You end up losing skin and getting bruising just because of what you're doing every day, all day, for months. And that'll happen with any pack. So I wouldn't blame it on the pack. I'm going to take a minute here and show you how I packed my Hyperlite bag. This was something that I grew, that's something that ended up becoming quite intuitive. So I'd roll down the top of my pack, and then I would take my contract bag, my contractor bag, or my liner bag. I ended up using this clear one at the end because the contractor bags were a little small, and I wanted to be able to there was so much rain, I wanted to be able to put everything in here. So what would go in first was my sleeping bag, and I would try and get as much air out of it as I could before I jammed it in there. Again, for volume, just to try and keep the volume down. And I would I would put it horizontally in so it went this way into my pack. I would press it down as much as I could again to get more air out of it, and just make sure it was just spreading out in the bottom, because that was a big thing with being able to keep the height of my pack down. Captain Chaos and I used to joke about when our Hyperlites were tall, we were in pain because it meant we were carrying a lot of food. So then I put my clothes in, and these go in again horizontally, and I would try to put these so this would be against my back. So that's where that would go in my pack. And then I would take my sleeping air mattress and put that in against the outside of my pack on one side. Now that used to take up the whole space in the winter when I had my other mattress in there, so it used to take up a tremendous amount of space. Looking for my puffy coat right now, because then my puffy coat went next to that. Again, all of these things can be really smushed down to try and create more space in the bag. And so what went next was a heavier item. So sometimes that was my food bag, or at times the heavier item might be my toiletries and my first aid kit, because again, I told you my power banks were in here, so this was pretty heavy. So let's just say for argument purposes that my toiletries and my first aid bag are the heavier items. So those would go next. But if I had a big food carry, that would go next, because my pack would be very off balance. You want to make sure your pack is packed in a way that provides balance while you're hiking. And one of the biggest issues can be being off balance. If the food bag is heaviest, you don't want this on top. Believe me. So this goes in next. And again, I would try to sort of smush it down into crevices and take up little air pockets as much as possible. And then I'd throw my cloth in here. Again, trying to stick that down in between things so that it would take up any volume in there. Okay, I think I get everything that goes on the inside. So then I take this, again, press down on everything, get as much air out of it as possible, and then twist this as tight as I can all the way up, and then tuck it in the side. Okay, now everything in my bag is going to stay dry because it's going to rain. I promise. Not because I want it to, but because it will. So then I have this front pocket. So what's going to go in here is I'm going to put my rain pants in the bottom because those I use the least, but I want to have access to them. So I roll them like this, and then I put them in like this so they go horizontal across the bottom of my big pocket. Maybe I'll put this up here so you can see it better. All right, so I put that in there. And then this goes in next. So this, I could have put up top and used my Y strap, but I didn't like having it that wide. Although probably at the end of the day, my pack ends up that wide with the stuff I put in the side pockets. I don't know. I just ended up with it going here. It worked for me. Again, it doesn't have to go here. It can be done as the Y strap like I was just showing you. This I would stuff down as far as I could. Okay, and then my stove and propane would go on one side. It's good to put everything in the same place every day because then you know you've got everything. So then my raincoat, I would roll this up. And stuff this in here like that. And then my ground cover, last but not least, I would stuff this behind this against my pack. So that's the back pocket. That's all that went there. In this side pocket is where my tent goes. So I put my tent in first. Again, this is another one of those things you can compress. Stuff in there. It's easier to do it on the ground, actually, than on a bench. And stuff it down as much as I can, and then sort of tighten it. My tent stakes would go right back here. And then I'd take this ground cover that I had, zip pad that I had for the longest time, and stick that in here also. So that would go there. I forgot my poop bag. That goes in there too. Sometimes it goes above the plastic and sometimes it doesn't. It depends. Okay, so next, on the other side is where my water stuff would go. So here's where my smart water bottle goes. My sit pad, my C-knock, my water filter, and let's pretend that my smart water bottle, my 1 liter smart water bottle is right there. Okay. Then my Crocs go on the outside, right here. So my carabiner would hook onto this strap here. And then I'd hook my Crocs on here like so. I'll tell you, you gotta get them hooked on right, otherwise they flop around when you're hiking. Let me tell you, that drives me nuts. My umbrella would go here if I was carrying it. My headphones, again, I didn't want these to get wet because, and that's why I didn't bring rechargeable earbuds, because I didn't want something else to charge. I wanted to just keep things simple and just have my phone and my Garmin. So then my cell phone would go in here. That's done. This pocket would have my head net. I used to have my bear spray and my knife, and then snacks. This pocket, all snacks. This was where I would put my bug spray and my other smart water bottle, because it fit there and I needed to have access to this. at any given moment. It was really important. So my rain fly would go back here side, but I also want to show you how to put that on, because this rain fly is great. I really liked it. Like I said, it's one of those things I really wish I'd had earlier on in my hike. So I'm gonna fasten all my straps. One of these is, there we go. So my Garmin would also go right on my pack right here. And this was a good place for it because it always had access to the sky, and it was right here if I needed it in any kind of emergency. So that was awesome. So my rain cover, this thing was awesome. So what was great about this was the way it fastened to my straps. So it had these two things, one on each side. So it has these two things here, and then it has this little hook in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop these through each strap and Velcro it back onto itself through this to attach it. So I'll show you. So this one goes through and then through this hook and attaches back onto itself. And then this one does the same. Goes under my strap and then through this little O-ring or D-ring, actually a D-ring, in there like that. So then it's like totally secure to the top of your pack, which is fantastic. And super lightweight, which is also fantastic. And then you just wrap it around everything like that. And check that out. What I loved about this was, guess what? It kept dry. It kept dry important things for me. My accordion mattress, my ground cover, and my tent. Big deal. And that's it. So that's my pack. That's packed up good. And my fanny pack, which this was important in the winter. This is where I kept anything that I didn't want to freeze. But I ended up using it for miscellaneous things in the warmer months. I put my headlamp here. I put a little baggie of Advil. I kept my wallet in the little pouch in here. And my sunglasses and my eyeglasses. So that stuff would all be handy and ready to grab at any moment. It had this little pocket in the back. Sometimes I'd stuff my trash in there during the day. And then I'd fasten this around my waist. But in the wintertime, I would carry my power packs in here and my water filter, my extra headlamp batteries, and my headlamp to keep it warm so it was right against my body. That's about it. I think I've covered everything. If there's anything that you have questions about or anything that was unclear or anything that you may do differently and want to add in the comments to say, hey, you did it that way, but I did it this way and it was great. Please share your feedback, share your own insight, your own information. Let's make this a learning opportunity for everybody. I'd love to hear your comments. You might pack your Hyperlite differently than me. That might be better. I'd love to hear it, and I think it would be beneficial for anybody else watching this video. So share your opinions and your thoughts. Keep it positive, as you always do. And thank you for watching. I hope you found something in this video helpful.